And welcome to another edition of Two Steps Ahead Podcast. Two Steps Ahead Podcast, highlighting the stuff we've stepped in so you don't have to. I'm Sonn Eidem, alongside Cranky Grapes.
Yes.
Tara Hoke, Schiro.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Cranky Grapes.
I am Cranky Grapes. It's hot out here.
Yeah, so we had to, we set up. I did all the work. She looked in the mirror.
Okay.
And then we went down to get some beverages. Now, I don't know about you, but it's kind of getting a little crazy with all the safety stuff, which I don't blame, but it just gets crazy. So I'm sitting there at the coffee place where I got my peach tea, and everybody's got a mask on, and then there's plexiglass, like thick plexiglass, and then the music's blaring, and the lady behind the counter is trying to ask me questions. I can't hear what she's saying, so I'm just making stuff up, and she's looking at me funny, and I'm looking at her funny, and I'm like, what's going on? Just, do you understand what I'm saying? Did you get my order? And then she's saying something about size, and I don't, and of course, it's not small, medium, or large. It's like, all this other, like, weird names like venti, latte, and grande, and I'm like, I don't frequent this place much, so I don't know what your sizes are. Just give me your largest. And so anyway, so it's going round and round. And then the kicker is, with the logistics of trying to be safer, actually keeps me in the store longer because I'm having to talk to them more. And so finally, I think what she was saying, and I don't know if you have that experience, but it seems to be happening more than just coffee shops. So, like, I've been into fast food restaurants and places like that, and the plexiglass, or like the convenience store. I went to the convenience store the other night to get a Monster Energy drink, and the guy had his mask on, and then he had a plexiglass thing. I mean, like thick plexiglass, like bank robber protection safety glass.
Right.
And then, okay, you know how they have the barcode?
Yes.
Okay, if you go to, I don't know if you go to the Targets, but you used to be able to take that device,
the wand,
and bring it to your item.
Yes.
Okay. So he had the device, the wand, but instead he picks up my item, brings it to the wand to beep, and then give it back to me. It's like, why don't you just bring the wand to that, and then you don't have to touch anything?
Right.
So all this stuff is getting crazy. But anyway, so I'm ordering my beverage, the point of the story, my tirade. And so I'm ordering my beverage, and I think she wanted to know, like, a name. Okay. So I just threw out some name, Bill, whatever. Because you put it on your glass, right, or your cup, supposedly. So it got me thinking to the old days when people would have a name that they would put. Did you ever have a name? But you don't frequent much. Do you?
I don't.
Do you have like a name that you put for orders, so when they call it out?
I just use my name.
Oh, use your name?
I don't get into all that.
But see, he even screwed it up because
he said it wrong. Yeah.
He called you Tara.
Right.
Instead of Tara.
I did spell it. I said, that's the thing that I don't. I usually say Tara, T-A-R-A.
So how do they normally spell it if they spell it wrong?
T-E-R-R-A-H. Or
I've never once.
R-A.
T-E-R-R-A-H?
We are going to get dive bombed by that bird. Yeah, because Tara or T-E-R-A.
I can see that.
Because people think that T-A-R-A is Tara.
Right.
But it's either. It's both.
But anyways, so years ago, I had a name. Marmadelia.
That's what you told them?
That's what I told people.
And you made them spell that?
Yes.
Oh, God.
And so when they would call out Marmadelia, then I'd know it was me. And so I'd go up and get my beverage. And then most of the time they could never pronounce it anyway, so then I wouldn't know they were calling me.
Right.
They'd be Mama Dia. Or something, whatever.
I was in an airport and at a coffee shop in the airport, and there were it was an international airport, and so there were lots of foreign names, and the lady was yelling out this name, and she wasn't pronouncing it right, and the customer was standing right there, not acknowledging because it was so botched.
Right.
She didn't understand how to, like the Marmadelia thing. And we're all, like, looking around, like, get your drink so we can get our drink.
Well, it's funny because you would think something as simple as Sonn would work, but it doesn't. And so that's why I originally, or like if I go to a restaurant, they ask for your name, they put in your name, I always give them a different name. Because they never get it right, and then I'm sitting there kind of that same thing. They botch it, and you're just sitting there and like, oh, me? Oh, okay. So that's why I give them and then I try to give them something so distinct that it just is entertaining.
Right.
And
Are you mean? Are you one of those mean people that make them say crass words or
No,
phrases.
I don't say
or,
bend over.
Yeah.
No, I don't say my name is Ben Dover. No, I'm doing like that. No.
It's
No.
so mean.
That's why I just pick up something like Marmadelia or something, and
Yeah.
then they have to try to say that, and then I get a kick out of it, and then I know it's me anyways. Because who else? And there's going to be anything close to that. Nobody.
Yeah, nobody. Nobody.
But so yeah, and so I don't know. I thought that was just kind of.
You should say the great. Just wear
I
your
could.
shirt.
Oh, that's
and
true.
just
I could just
say
put the great.
The great.
The
because
great.
who else would be
That's true.
ordering a drink with the name of the great?
That's true. I could do that. That might be my new one now. The great.
The
That's
great.
what they say. Yeah, just put that. And then eventually, the great will grow into a symbol.
Yes.
You know, like Prince had a
Like
symbol,
Prince, yep.
and then you become and then your legendary status once you get to become the symbol.
There you go.
So I need to come up with the symbol.
There you go.
But so, anyways, we are here. So that's the pre-show story of the day. But so we're here at the Kyoto Gardens again. If you were with us last week, we were here talking about Zen, and now we're here again today. We came back and going to talk about some other things, but it's in downtown LA at the Doubletree. Little Tokyo is actually where it's at. We'd like to thank David and his staff for allowing us to come out yet again and let us broadcast from here. And the Kyoto Gardens is a place where you can just kind of come. It's like a Japanese-style garden designed by a designer from Kyoto, Japan. And it has a waterfall, and it has a brook or a little stream, and it has some other waterfalls. And it's just really peaceful, really, is what it is. And it's really
beautiful.
nice.
Very
And
nice.
And so that's where we are broadcasting from today in downtown Los Angeles, which brings me to, is there anything, because before COVID, I used to come downtown a lot. It started about a year ago when I went to New Orleans, and I discovered in New Orleans that they had a lot of rooftop bars.
I love rooftop bars.
And it was great because there's
So
one
fun.
we went to, and you could overlook the Superdome, and then there's another one, and all you do, because in New Orleans everything is flat, unlike here in LA, we've got the foothills and other places where you've got hills, and another one you could just see forever. It was just as flat as the eye could see. So when I came back during the fall of 2019 and stuff, pre-COVID, that's what I was doing. I was hitting all the rooftop bars and checking them out again because I'd kind of lost interest in downtown, but
So
I kind of So that's one of the things I do miss is the downtown rooftop bars, especially like on the summer nights, you know, when it's really cool.
Yes.
So is there anything that you have been missing
You
from
know,
pre-COVID?
yeah, it's weird to say work, but it's not really work. It's more like playtime. So I have said before, or I've told you before, that I've done a lot of, been on a lot of TV shows and a movie and doing background work like an extra. So you were going to say?
I was going to say, weren't you the douche bag on Superstore or something like the double douche?
I was.
Or something, yeah, on Superstore? Yeah, I remember that. Because I remember watching that, and I saw you in the background. I'm like, wait. And then it didn't click because I think this was before we were working together. And then you posted again on social media some of your pictures. I'm like, it's a double douche.
Yes. Yes, that was me because, so coming down here to downtown LA, it reminded me this morning when we were driving down here, it's like, oh my gosh, I used to come down here downtown for filming a lot. We filmed a lot of shows down here. And so I miss it. I miss being on set. I miss, the whole thing about, filming or whatever. And the Superstore episode, they were asking us to do things, and I was not cooperating at all. And so it was the episode where the two, I don't even know their names, but the two main characters, on I guess they're managers now or something. They went to this they had gotten promoted, and they went to this managers convention, right? And so we had it set up to make it look like a convention center, and there were like booths, like trade booths around, and the two main characters were going to the different booths and trying out. It was kind of some sort of like a technology or some sort of trade show that all the Superstore managers were attending, the district managers. And so they were asking us, the extras, the background. We were supposed to be doing the different things, like trying on the clothes or, whatever. And they asked us to dance, and they were pulling different people out of, they're saying, okay, now it's your turn, because the cameras were turning in different angles, and they would say, okay, you two, you come over and dance. And then they would turn the cameras and say, okay, you guys come over. And so pretty soon there was like 20 of us that they had chosen at different intervals to fill the dance, because it was like a earphone thing that they were selling or something. And I didn't cooperate. I'm like, I do not want to stand there and dance. Okay, that's my job. That I'm supposed to do whatever they ask you to do. I'm like, I'm not having this. And so I started doing the Elaine, from Seinfeld.
Okay, right. Yeah.
I was like doing the jerky moves and doing this whole thing. Well, the camera guy was cracking up. He was laughing, and I saw him out of the corner of my eye, like motion somebody over. And nobody came up and told me to stop, but they switched the angle so that I was out of frame.
Oh, did they really?
So they let me stay. They're like, okay, she's going to do the Elaine, whatever. They couldn't even use the shot that they were. Technically, they should have come over and said, hey, can you dance normal? But they didn't do that. So they adjusted the camera unbeknownst to all of us, but just enough so that I was out of frame so that you could, and the two main characters were sitting at the bar and we were behind them. So then when I watched the show back,
right.
I guess because I had been such a nuisance that they made me into the triple douche, right?
Okay.
And so the two characters were like having this conversation. They were like, oh, this trade show is lame. That guy's a douche. That guy's a douche. That girl over there, she's a triple douche. And then there's my face on the screen. I'm like, oh, okay. My claim to fame. Yeah, it was very funny. So I'm sure that they were annoyed with me, and so they made me the triple douche.
But see, that's comedy right there.
It's hilarious.
I mean, that's just like on the spot. You can't write that comedy.
No, it was not planned. No, it was not planned at all. It was hilarious.
That's when you know you got something good, is when it's that good and it's not planned.
Right.
I've worked on radio shows where it's gotten to the point where it's like, sometimes our shows are that way. We don't plan; it just happens. Mm-hmm. But there's been times where I've been on radio shows, like the Sports Talk Radio, Loose Cannons, when I was working on their show. We got to the point one year that probably for about 2 years where it just took a life of its own, and you just couldn't script it. It just took a life on its own, and it was so much fun. And so that is when you get to that point, then you've got something good. Mm-hmm. What show did you enjoy working the most? Because I know you were on like Criminal Minds.
I was on Criminal Minds, and that episode has aired several times, actually. I was on the
and you're not the corpse?
No, I was not the corpse, but I was on the airplane that crashed. So then there was a bunch of extras that were playing the dead bodies after the plane crashed. I was on NCIS. I was on, oh gosh, do you know my recall memory? Okay, so I'm like... My perimenopause is kicking in. I have zero memory right now.
So if you want to know what show she's on, you can go to her Instagram at Tara Hoke Schiro, Tara.
There's a bunch of them.
And there's a highlights. You have a highlight, right?
I have a highlight.
And they're all on her highlights.
I think it's called As Seen on TV or TV shows or Seen on TV something on my bubble, my little bubble on Instagram. There's a ton. I can see them all in my mind right now, but
those are the three that stuck out because I watched all three. NCIS, Criminal Minds, and Superstore.
Yes.
And like I said, the Superstore one didn't connect until I saw it on your story or you posted. I'm like, oh, that's right, you're the triple douche. Yeah. And so anyway, so that's interesting, the backstory to that. So did
I miss it? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. So if they go back to taping, do you think you'll get called back? Will you be? See, I'll be able to go back to rooftop bars, hopefully. Will you be able to go back to extra-ing?
Yes, because they need people all ages. Well, actually, we're talking about things that, have been changing. It's up in the air right now. Because couldn't I go back? Yes, because they need all ages, all ethnicities, So I've been on set with 90-year-old women before.
Okay.
Because they need, all ages. So, yeah, I could go back. But there's a big to-do right now about filming in Hollywood because the crew is so close together. Right. The hair and the makeup people are right on top of you. I don't know how they're going to keep. And then the background people, sometimes there's 2 or 3 background, or there's 200, depending on if it's a wedding or a funeral or a restaurant scene, or they just have to have people to fill the room. So obviously you can't wear a mask and do that 6 feet apart and keep everybody safe. There is some filming going on right now, but not a lot.
Yeah, I thought I read something similar, or read something somewhere recently that said that Hollywood was getting the go-ahead to start production again. Whatever that means.
So they did get the go-ahead, but I watched the chatter on because I'm in SAG and I'm in a couple of Facebook groups or whatever for industry people, and I've been watching some of the chatter, and there have been some music videos that people have been doing and some smaller productions. some of the safety precautions are good, some of them not so good. Some of them are making you sign a non-disclosure, so you don't tell. Yeah, but there's not a lot of the main stuff hasn't, unless they're doing smaller scenes with not a lot of people and they can figure out how to distance. But it's a big problem.
So now, when you were not cooperating on the set of Superstore, it's actually a hilarious episode. It's actually pretty funny.
It is funny.
But when you are, that's my one show. Like you mentioned the names, I watch the show all the time, but I don't. It's my veg show. I don't recommend watching it, to be honest. I don't make recommendations. So it's not that it's a bad show, good show. I just don't make recommendations. So you say, oh, Sonn watches it, I'm going to watch it. Don't. Make up your own mind. But I watch it because it's just completely hilarious. And it's my veg show. I get the 30 minutes just to check out and just laugh and whatever.
Yeah.
But so when you were not cooperating and they just cut you out of the scene, did they come back and reprimand you, forgive you? What did they do? Just nothing?
Usually they will say something to you. Because background are notorious for not behaving. And we have talked about it before, I'm very compliant. I try really hard to, you have to be very humble to work as a background on a set, because you just do what you're told. If they tell you to stand in one place for 6 hours, then that's what you do. You just have to do what you're told, right? You would not survive in that job at all. You would not.
That's why I don't do it.
That would not be the job for you. So typically they would, say something to you depending on the set. But this one, and I usually don't, I'm very well behaved on set. But that day I was so doing the Elaine. So they didn't come up and say, don't do the Elaine. Because it's a very,
right.
It's her trade, right. It's Elaine Bennis's trademark. So I don't know if no, they didn't come up to me and say anything. They just laughed. I could see them snickering in the background, and then they just kind of turned the camera, and then they got back at me for, right. Turning me into the triple douche.
That's how we gotta pick. So if you're well behaved on set there, why aren't you well behaved here?
Because I don't feel like it.
Okay. So they didn't reprimand you or anything like that. So could you so the question is getting into what we're going to talk about, because there's a perfect segue. So could you take that approach to life? If someone does something that they're not supposed to you, does something wrong to you, whatever, can you take that same approach and just put them out of your life? Or is it something that needs to be addressed? So, for example, someone does something wrong. Okay, so we're basically in an age right now with this COVID that all kinds of stuff is going on. And people are arguing with people are fighting with people are disagreeing with people. You've got social media, people unfriending everybody, and you've got even friends, probably good friends that have been together for a long time. We've talked in the last episode about, domestic abuse going on and all this stuff. So when it comes to forgiveness on the set of a TV show and you're an extra, they can just cut you off.
They will cut you out of the scene.
But
they will not call you back. They will.
In real life, you can't do that.
Right.
So how then do we approach forgiving somebody that, in a healthy way, that has done us something wrong, maybe so much so to the point that we really don't like them anymore, or they really offended us or really hurt us or did something more severe than just call me a name or disassociate from me with social media. So how can we go about doing that if we can't just turn the camera and put them out of our life?
Get them out of frame.
Yes, get them out of frame. Get out of frame. Unfriend.
Retaliate. You are a triple douche. It was so funny. I just had a conversation the other day about this, and it seems to be a confusing thing. Like, how do we know when to set boundaries? How do we know when we need to forgive? How do we know when we need to cut somebody, out of our life and distance ourselves from them if they're not healthy? And it seems like we have a difficult time deciding, where that line is, and how much we should put up with. And a lot of times when we're in the scenario, it's hard to see, and then until later, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I should have not have been friends with them a long time ago. So the line of apologies, changing the behavior, setting boundaries, forgiveness, that's all, it's kind of a case by case, but there's kind of a structure to it too, so that
See, because there's been times where people have done something wrong, and the assumption is you forgive, you forget, and you don't change behavior. So, for example, somebody does something to me, I forgive and forget, but I still hang out with them. When in actuality, it could be even healthier and better to forgive. You don't forget because you want to learn the lesson. Now, you don't hold the grudge against them, but you don't want to forget it because you want, to keep that lesson that, hey, there's, trust issues, whatever. And then you might have to walk away from them and disassociate. Actually, then cut them out of the scene of your life because that's the healthier way to approach it.
Yeah, and we have a hard time doing that because sometimes it's family, sometimes it's a friend that we've been friends with for a long time. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to just abandon them, or I don't want to, just cut them out of my life. And we think that that's a horrible thing. But if it's destructive, like there's a person that I keep my distance with because they lie, and I don't like that. Like, just tell me, there's been a couple of things that they've done that I know is a flat out, bold face lie. They just completely cover it up. And I'm thinking, okay, I didn't need them to do X, Y, and Z. I totally get the position that they're in. I could care less about, that they're in this position. That's not what I wanted from them. I was just wanting the relationship. I wasn't wanting these other things, but they felt bad that they couldn't provide it, and so they lied about it, made up all kinds of excuses about why they couldn't, provide this, and I wasn't even asking them to provide it in the first place. So, and it wasn't the thing that they were trying to provide, the gift, it was the fact that they lied about it. That's the part. So I'm like, I can't trust this person if they're going to manipulate the truth. Like, if you can't, if there's a gift, or that you're going to be somewhere or whatever or something, just be honest and say, I can't afford it. I don't want to participate in that. I'm late because, whatever, or I just didn't feel like answering the email. I don't care what it is, what the real answer is, but if I know they lied, and I'm like, okay, so I cannot be close to that person. I just don't. Tell me the truth. And so I will keep a safe distance, from that person, and not let them. I think we talked about before, the circles. You'll have your inner circle, and then on the bullseye, there's that next ring and that next ring and that next ring, and they are not getting any closer until they prove over time that they're not going to behave that way anymore. But if, so I kind of hold there's certain things that are deal breakers for me. That's one of them, because that means that they don't trust me with the truth. They don't trust me to, and maybe there's something that I need to do that is safe, for them to have the truth. But that's kind of a deal breaker. So when we talk, a few episodes ago, we were talking about values. Yeah.
And I made the comment that, sometimes we value things in people, like honesty, but yet we don't give that to them.
True.
Okay, so what we value isn't necessarily what we're going to conduct our lives with.
Mm-hmm.
And so you valuing honesty is important. So what if then someone, like you mentioned, whoever this person is, that you keep at a distance, whatever, at what point, do you forgive them? What point do you continue to work with them or have them in your life when you know that there's going to be a constant lie all the time, and that lies are ongoing? Yeah.
So like you said, a lot of people have this idea of forgive and forget, right? And that's just not how we have to remember, because otherwise we're going to get hurt again. We're setting ourselves up to hurt again. So in this case, I forgive this person, but I don't have a close relationship with them because a pattern of trustworthy behavior has not yet been set. So if they keep the same pattern of making things up, like, oh, I just didn't get the text, or oh, I just didn't see the, whatever, or, there's this constant, you just never know quite sure, where the truth is, then I keep them at a distance. But if there's a pattern of behavior over a period of time that shows out of trust and honesty, then they can come closer, and then you can have a relationship with them. But if they're not doing that, then you don't have to be close and have a relationship. You can keep them people get confused. I think like they think that they're just like, oh, I'm supposed to forgive, and then they let a person that's cheated on them in a relationship like back into the house or back into the relationship, or someone that has stolen or whatever it is. We think that like we just have to go right back to the same relationship, and that's not the case at all.
See, I've got the memory of a freaking elephant.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult because sometimes things will happen and then the other person doesn't remember. And so it's hard to bring up something sometimes from the past. Let's say if there's a pattern, okay? And then you finally give the other person the benefit of the doubt. And then a couple times go by, 3-4 times, and you're like, okay, now I'm done. And then they come back and like, well, why are you mad? Why are you walking away? Why are you cutting me out? Why are you taking me off scene? And it's like, well, because you've done these things. And they're like, I don't remember that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And because they don't remember it. Mm-hmm. And that's where it becomes difficult, because I've had to do that with some people where I've decided that, as I move forward in life at this particular stage that I'm in, that it's important for me to be able to put some stuff that have gone on behind me, just bury it, boom, done. Mm-hmm. And because it's been unhealthy, and move forward with it without that in my life. And so I'm forgetting it and I'm moving on, and anybody that was a part of that is gone too. Okay. And so somebody asked me, why, and I was trying to describe why, some of the reasons, some of the actions and stuff that led to this, and they didn't remember it. And so then now I'm the bad guy because I'm making up things because I'm whatever, they take it as an assault on themselves because they don't remember the things they've done. And so therefore they think I'm just making stuff up, and now it even escalates the situation. And again, I can't deal with that. So that's even further in the box. And so that's kind of the problem that I run into with dealing with sometimes with people, is because it gets to the point, because I'll let people have their way. And sometimes people say I'm too trusting, or I give too much. Someone told me the other day, the comment was, I don't walk away soon enough. Because I was telling somebody else this. I was telling them, I finally, put this thing in the closet, locked the door, and, burned down the she shed. And they said, you walk away way too late sometimes.
Yeah. And
so, but that's part of the reason. And then when I go back to do that, there's still a longer history, but people don't remember the history, and they forget, and then they think I'm just making stuff up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot in there that kind of confuses things, because I think, and I don't know the whole story there, so I'm just going to, my response may or may not be accurate to your exact situation, but I think sometimes what happens is that, in general, is that when we are in relationships and there are offenses, people that are offending us, we don't say anything and we let it go. But then over time, when those offenses keep coming, then it starts to build up, and it's like, when I just can't, I have to be done with this. Like, I can't. But because we didn't communicate anything to the other person and they're oblivious to it, it seems to come out of nowhere. And it's hurtful. It feels kind of like a betrayal. I've had that happen to me before in a different type of scenario, where things are going along and you think everything's fine, and then this person comes and says, oh, well, I'm really hurt because of, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, why are we talking about this now? Like, why didn't you tell me then, so that I had an opportunity to change my behavior? Because now it's like, I can't, what am I supposed to do with it now? Like, 6 months or 2 years later, so I think we are, sometimes we can be afraid to say something because we don't know how it's going to go. So then we bury it, but then it comes back because it was really hurtful to us, right? And then the person is confused, or sometimes they feel betrayed, or they don't want to take responsibility for what you're saying. So then they throw it back anyway because they just don't want to, even go there. So I think the lesson there is to learn to say things in the moment, or say things at the time, like, okay, that's comment was hurtful, and it's hard. It's really hard. Sometimes people say things, I'm like, I don't want to deal with it right now, so I'm not going to say anything. But it doesn't really it's not service to the relationship. And you also have to decide if you want the relationship to be repaired. So, like, if you want there to be a relationship afterwards, stronger and better, then you can explain more and more. But if your goal is to end that relationship, you probably don't have to explain very much, and just put it on yourself and just be like, this is a there's just things that I'm struggling with here, and I seem some of my behavior is kind of, not good in this situation, and so I'm just going to, bow out.
Yeah, see, I've taken some steps recently that has been quite healthy, actually, because as I'm moving forward in life, I'm at the point now where really I have a clean slate again. We've talked about, stuff we've been involved with, and I actually have a clean slate. Outside of this show that we do here, I really have nothing that I'm tied to. Okay, so I can do pretty much anything I want moving forward in life. And so in order for me to be in a healthy spot, there's been some things in the past that have happened, just in life, at former jobs, whatever, that when you're out of it, when you're in the midst of that storm or you're in the midst of that mire, that quagmire, and you're in the midst of quicksand, yeah, you might be sinking, but you really don't know just how bad it is.
Right.
Because you're in it.
Right.
And then when you get out of it, you realize, wow, that was really unhealthy. That was really bad. It could be relationships are huge that way. I know people get in relationships and then they're like, oh, wait a minute. And then they get out of it and they're like, wow, that was really unhealthy. Why did I even stick around?
Right.
So I think the relationships is the biggest part of it. And so, but anyway, so I've taken some of these things and I've just, like I said, I've locked them away, buried them in the past, and they're done. And it's actually been quite healthy. And some of those steps that I've taken have actually made day-to-day living more enjoyable because I'm not worried about all that other stuff. It's just, I'm just done with it. And so I think for me, it's healthy to be able to have that. Now, in some instances, there's been new issues that have been brought up through this COVID lockdown stuff that obviously adds on to it. But I think it's more for the now. Okay, because some of the people that I've had issues with, we've actually talked it out and we've actually come to an understanding, and we're able to communicate, but it's only because the issues are in the now. It's nothing before, and in the future, it'll be nothing of it. And so I think it's healthy for people to be able to do that. And then in order to get to that point, which is one of the reasons why we're here at the Kyoto Gardens at the Doubletree in Little Tokyo, downtown LA, kind of like a Zen garden, is because you have to be in a good place yourself. And in order to be in a good place yourself to make those decisions and to be comfortable and strong in those decisions, and for me, it's been cutting off people. Cutting off people that I used to talk to, cutting off people that I used to, communicate with through social media, or, maybe I worked with them, or, whatever. I've just cut them off. And it's not like I went and told them. It's just I just stopped communicating. Because for me, it was about me, and I didn't feel like I needed to explain it to anybody. This is totally about me. And if someone came to me and said, hey, why did you XYZ me? I'd be like, well, because it's about me, not you, and that's just it. Because I don't want to reopen those things.
Right.
It's done.
Right.
And I had to be in a healthy place, and that's one of the positives, I think, of the shutdown and everything that's gone on in my life, is give me an opportunity to kind of process all the stuff that has gone on over the last few years and realize that some of the stuff I was involved in was really unhealthy, and other stuff that I was involved with was because of me making it unhealthy. I mean, just, too much time invested, time management, not being, and not having my priorities straight, because I was in that quicksand. And because I've been able to have them clarity now, I've been able to figure it all out. And so that's where I think the question of forgiveness comes. Okay, so yeah, you forgive the actions of the people that might have done wrong. Especially, and I'm talking about especially when you haven't done anything wrong to them, which happens. People do something wrong to you, but you haven't done anything wrong to them. So it's not a two-way street. It's completely, the wrong is coming at you. And so cut those people out, and it's made life a whole lot better. But I had to get into a place where I'm healthy enough to realize and to not to cling and hold to that past, thinking it's going to get better in the future. Just cut it off. I mean, we've talked about it before. If you are someone who's going to tear down, that's all you're going to be, is a destroyer. If you're a builder, you might have to tear down. If you do renovations, you might have to demolish, your kitchen, do some demo work, and then you're going to build it back up again. And so for me in my life, that's what I've done over the past few weeks and months, is I've demoed my life to the point of now rebuilding it in the renovation process. And I realized that some of this is just junk, throw it away, restructure my foundation, get it stronger, so that then as I move forward now into this new world of this next generation of my life, whatever I get into, I'm entering it in a healthy manner. And that's doing away with toxic relationships, doing away with old relationships that are just dead weight, doing away with all kinds of stuff that isn't good, pruning the bush back. So now as I grow again, and it took me to be in a healthy place. So people might be thinking that and wanting to do that, but maybe you're not quite ready yet because maybe you aren't in a healthy spot to do that.
Well, I'm glad I made the cut.
So far, list isn't done yet.
I'm still here, so I'm glad I made the cut so far. I made the first round.
You made the first round.
I made the first round, so we'll see.
You're into the second round of cuts. And so,
but yeah, I mean, that is a valid point. Like, if you're not healthy enough, because I've heard people say, I've mentioned this before, that they were in a bad relationship, and they'll say, "Well, I don't know, why I married this person in the first place," and they'll say, "Well, I didn't think that anybody else would marry me, or I didn't think anybody else would love me," or they're in an unhealthy dating relationship and they know it's unhealthy, but they're afraid to let it go because at least they have something. And they know that. They're like, I know that this person doesn't treat me right. I know it's not good. But then if I break up with them, I'm not going to have anybody and I'm going to be lonely. And lonely is worse than being treated poorly, I guess, in that. Yeah. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I mean, it's very difficult to say, to cut something off. And so if you're not in a healthy place, that's where these bad relationships linger. And some of these, not, maybe it could just be friendship or, families that are toxic. They just linger because at least we have something, right? A lot of codependency, a lot of addicts, families with addicts, they'll hang on because if they let go of this person, then they won't have a father, mother, son, daughter, whatever it is, and they can't imagine life, independent of that person, right? Because that's kind of like their identity. And so when we're not healthy, that's when we hang on way too soon, and then forgiveness gets very confused because it's like, oh, I forgive them, but then there's no restitution, there's no consequences, there's no boundaries, there's all kinds of and then it stays, and then there's more hurt and more pain and more confusion and on and on.
Because there's a lot of stuff going on that is probably putting people at odds, and that makes it even more difficult because what is serious enough to cause a rift? Is it permanent? Or is it something that can be patched up when, everything simmers down a little bit? I think one of the things that I've always kind of been fortunate of, and that is a strong foundation in who I am, what my beliefs are, what my ideology is. So that way, in the different circumstances that arise, I don't change much because I've already committed to this set of beliefs and values, okay? So I don't ebb and flow with the tide. If the tide is going one way, I'm still firm in what I believe. If it's going the other way, and the news is this way, or the news is that way, or this is happening, or that is happening, I'm still firm in my ideology and my foundation because that's what I have established for myself. So it makes it easier for me to kind of maneuver some of the issues in life because I can go back to that, if that makes sense. Right. Okay. So like if someone lies to me, okay, then I don't have to get all melodramatic about it because I know in myself how to deal with those people because that's my set determination. But also being a nice guy, for example, it can add up, because you keep taking it and you keep, wanting to kind of give the benefit of the doubt, or you want to keep being nice to them, or you want to keep thinking that, through my actions, maybe that will help them change. But at some point, you just got to cut it.
Right.
And just get rid of it because you're not the person to fix it. You're not the person to be the example. You're not the person to whatever it be.
To save them or to change them.
It's going to be somebody else that has to do that. Because I wasn't thought about that through the years. What if I did? And then it's like, well, I might not have been the person to do that. And so it's not always about us. So that's why if you're in a healthy spot, I can make these decisions. And it's not like it's things that are like, oh my God, I need therapy and all this stuff. But no, it was just after a certain while, as life moves on, it's kind of like your computer. Every once in a while you have to defragment your computer. You have to erase memory. You have to get rid of some things so that the storage is there again, so your computer functions again properly. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, defragmenting our lives. And for me to defragment some of that stuff and get it out, so now that my life can operate at the optimum level that it should be, and as I take on new stuff, better stuff, all that old junk is gone and there's space for the new stuff.
Yeah, and I would throw a caution flag out on that scenario because it is good to get rid of the clutter. But then there's a second step in there that we have to heal the behavior that caused us to get into that clutter in the first place. So a lot, like, if we just bury our stuff, like, we could get rid of the people and the scenarios and the the jobs or whatever it was. We could get rid of the thing or the person that was draining us, and we can clear everything out. But there's a step deeper when you go down to the root, is that we have to ask ourselves, well, what was the behavior that I had that attracted this person in the first place, or got me into this position in the first place? Or because it's not just the people or the relationship or the job or the project or the whatever it is. It's we had to engage in that, and so we have to look at why did we engage in that in the first place. And you mentioned a couple already. It's like, we want people to like us. We want to help the person. We want to feel like we're, doing right by the community. Excuse me. And so there's all kinds of reasons why, we don't want to be lonely. There's all kinds of reasons why we hang on and try to make things work. And so we can finally get to the point where, like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. But we have to address, because if we don't address it, we're going to do it again. We're going to exhibit that same sort of behavior pattern and attract another unhealthy person or another unhealthy whatever job or whatever. And then we're going to be, that's why a lot of times where people that get a divorce and then get remarried, they end up remarrying a person who has the exact same behavior patterns as the first marriage, because they never went back to reconcile, like, why did I get involved with that person in the first place? And if they don't answer that question, they have this new person with the same set of behaviors as the old person, and then the pattern's just going to start all over again.
Yeah, so I need to stop saving my stuff to the desktop and putting it on the drive, because then that stops bogging down the computer. Yeah,
so, like, recognizing, like, okay, this relationship or, whatever, I got to get rid of it. But then I have to look at myself. Like, what did I do to, make that situation happen, that chaos in the first place? And that's what we have to ask ourselves and work. That part cannot be buried. So you bury the relationship, but you can't bury the thing that got you there in the first place.
Yeah, but see, for me, all that is gone because I'm no longer in those environments.
Right, but you are, wherever you go, there you are. So it's not the environment that caused the chaos, it's you.
I'm blaming the environment.
Yeah, but you went to that environment. So you could take yourself out and say, okay, I'm done with all that. But those behaviors and those mechanisms are still in you, so you could take them to the next environment and repeat it all over again if you're not careful.
Right.
Like, if you don't understand what it is that you brought to that environment in the first place.
Someone asked me one time early in the year, before all this stuff, and what's 2020 resolutions, anything? And I'm like, no, I never do resolutions. And we've talked about this on the show before. I'm like, no, I don't do resolutions. But I said, I'm going to make 2020 the year of me. And they're like, what do you mean?
I think you did say that. I remember.
I said, it's going to be a me. Year of me. I'm taking care of myself first, and then everybody else will come secondary. And I think as we're moving into now the second half of the year, even though there's been a lot of stuff going on just on the world, I think that I've been true to that because I've been focusing on me first. And I think now we're at the point here, having this conversation, where because it started back in January, focusing on me first, I can get to the point where I am now, where I'm at, and be able to say that. Because it is about me first and taking care of me first and getting everything. Because, again, everybody's moving into pretty much a new way of living once we emerge from whatever we're going through right now. Who knows what that's going to be like. And so why not get that fresh start and have that fresh start happen, like do the remodeling now so that you can have the big, open house grand finale, showcase when things open up again, life.
I think it's the perfect time to evaluate the relationships. And it's hard because if we are in a bad relationship or a bad marriage and, and we're kind of sort of locked down still, not as much as we were, but it's still harder to be independent and get away. It is a good time to really examine and to really work on it. And I just want to say, too, about forgiveness, that forgiveness is letting go of the punishment. So, for example, if you hurt me and I'm of the mindset that, you know, I need to forgive you. Forgiving you isn't just saying, oh, it's okay, you know, I forgive you, let's just go back to the way things were. Forgiveness, like, there's a debt there, right? And so the debt is that, you know, I have hurt feelings, or I have hurt finances, or I have hurt whatever it is that you did to offend me. There's something there, right? And so I have a pain that has to be taken care of, and you can't. The sucky part of forgiveness is that there's nothing that you can do to fix my pain. I have to fix my pain. So forgiveness is fixing what someone else broke, which is really awful. It doesn't seem fair, but that's the way that it works, right? And we don't want to fix our own pain. We want to punish the other person. I want to make you pay for what you did. And I want you to hurt as much as I'm hurting. So I will not forgive you because I want you to continue to hurt. And I want to make sure, I'm going to make sure that you get what's coming to you. I want to make sure you get your consequences, your justice, you know, whatever it is. I want you to pay for it, right? So forgiveness is saying, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. I'm going to erase the debt, and I'm going to fix my own pain. Like, I'm not going to have revenge. I'm not going to pay attention to, are you, you know, getting what's coming to you? I'm going to let it go. That's the forgiveness part. But if you want the relationship to continue and you want to repair the relationship, there's restitution that you might have to make. Like, I hear a lot of times people say that, like, there was like an affair or something in the marriage, and the person will say, oh, I'm sorry, and then they come right back in the house, and they have another affair, and they leave, and then they come back in the house, and the person just keeps letting them come and go. No, you don't get to come back. You have to make restitution. You have to go to a support group. You have to go to a counselor. You have to, you know, all these different things to build a different type of behavior, trustworthy behavior over time. That pattern has to be over time. And if they don't do that, then the relationship doesn't come back. So it's not just like if you forgive someone, the automatic relationship comes back. They have to earn it back. That trust has to be rebuilt over several months or years or whatever. So, but the forgiveness part is, I'm going to not hold you accountable for my pain. I'm going to fix my pain. Or, you know, if we're going to restore the relationship, then we'll do it together. But I'm going to erase that debt that you owe me. And I think that's a lot of people don't understand, because they'll say, like, oh, I forgive you, but then I'm still waiting for you to get I hope you get, you know,
in
a car crash, or I hope it gets coming to you, right?
Or like what people are saying now, I hope you get COVID.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that means that you're in my head, and I'm obsessing over your pain, and I really, you know, want you to feel, and that's bitterness and everything else.
Are those ducks behind us?
Yes. No, they're birds. They're just. I thought they were ducks. That's why I turned, and it was like,
we're outdoors.
We're going to get attacked.
Obviously outdoors, and so we're maneuvering around the
elements today
of wildlife. In this case,
last week
birds.
It was the sirens and the helicopters, and this week it's like the birds.
It's fowl. It's the fowl.
We are outside at the Doubletree Hotel in downtown LA, so you just never know.
Yeah, we might do our show here all the time. It's kind of been peaceful.
Right now is
like,
man.
I was looking around and I was thinking, well, maybe she thinks I'm not interested in what you're saying, but I was like taking it all in, because it's like talk about like the perfect, you know. Cause,
there's a breeze.
Yeah,
there's
it's
shade.
like talk about just perfect zen. This is what it is. You know, you got some noise going on, but you know, where else can you
minimal,
do?
Yeah.
Where else can you be where you've got, you know, there's like a babbling brook behind us, or a waterfall to our left and right of us, birds flying around.
Bird family walking around back there.
Perfect weather right now. I don't know, you know, what it's like where you're at right now, but it's like perfect weather right now with a slight breeze.
Last week it was 100 and something. I was baking. It was so hot.
And so you talk about, you know, being kind of like in that perfect zen moment of peace and self-care. It's almost like I'm ready just to throw out the yoga mat and just let's do something here.
Mats over
I know,
there.
we
Yeah,
got two mats.
Lay down, take a nap in the breeze and the shade.
And so again, as things open up, and hopefully they do, you know, you might want to find yourself at a place where you can go get healthy, where you can take care of yourself, where you can then get to the point where you can make good decisions and base those decisions on, okay, as I move forward now, will I be able to have these good relationships? Will I be able to mend relationships? Are these relationships fixable? Are they just toxic and I need to just do away with them? But you can't make those decisions unless you're healthy.
Right.
And we can't get healthy unless we
get help.
Right. And unless we take care of ourselves. And there's people out there. I mean, I know a couple, it's been a few shows ago, we were at Hillside Wellness Center with Dr. Irene, There's people out there that can help if you just need to talk, And again, going to therapy and seeking help from anybody else, whether it be a counselor, a therapist, a pastor, a priest, a spiritual advisor. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a sign of weakness. It's just sometimes you might need someone to talk to.
I saw a commercial last night with Michael Phelps.
Yeah, he has that
and
talk.
He was advertising, getting help, and he was saying that the last 6 months of this COVID thing has been a real struggle for him because he's a very structured person, and when he doesn't have that structure, then he gets kind of lost, and his depression is really coming on heavy right now in the middle of COVID, and there's a lot of mental health issues that are magnified right now in COVID, and so and sometimes we just need someone to. I remember one time when I was engaged actually, and I broke up with this person, and all I needed was someone to come alongside me. I just needed someone to be brave for me and with me. And I remember I went and talked to this lady, and I sat there and cried for 20 minutes. I just sat there and sobbed because I would been holding it in and holding it in and holding it in. And then when I finally, it just felt like such a relief to have somebody that understood. And I just sat there and sobbed for 20 minutes. And she just sitting on waiting for me to stop. And I was apologizing, and I just couldn't stop crying because it just all that bottled up emotion, just kind of came out. And
was it Elsa, Let It Go?
Yeah.
Was it Elsa that sang Let It Go from Frozen?
Yes, from Frozen.
And sometimes you have to just kind of let it go, and sometimes you have to have that avenue to let it go.
Yes.
But it's important. It's important to make sure that we take care of ourselves first and foremost, to be in that position, at least for me anyways, so that I can be in the position to make healthy decisions, healthy choices. And the world we live in, it's even now more important. And even when it comes to forgiveness and things like that, it's even more important to just kind of not really hold that grudge because there's too much other stuff going on. And if you can, it's okay to forgive and move on and forget about that. Cut the relationship if you have to. Yeah. Because that's healthy, and we already have too much stuff going on as it is. We don't need all this other stuff.
And sometimes we need to forgive ourselves.
Yep. Just don't forget yourself.
Yeah. Don't forget yourself. But sometimes that's the step that we're we need to give ourselves some grace. Okay, I made a mistake, or I got involved in this and I shouldn't have, and we just need to give ourselves a little bit of grace and just say, I don't deserve this. Sometimes we are in relationships where we know that we are not being treated properly. We know that we are not treating the other person properly. But we stay because we feel that shame of oh my gosh, what are people going to think if I break up, or I can't handle showing that, admitting that I made all these mistakes. So I'm going to try really hard to make it work. It's just, get some help and get yourself healthy. You are worthy. You are worth it. Get somebody to tell you that.
Well, that's the thing. I think sometimes people will make decisions based on how the other person might feel, and you can't do that.
Right.
So if you're in a bad relationship, you can't worry about how the other person is going to feel.
Right.
You just have to break up with them. Or you are in an environment where maybe you're an employer and your employee has to go because it's just really to that point where that employee has to go.
Yeah.
But you feel bad because maybe there's no job for them, maybe unemployment, maybe this, maybe that. But you know what? At some point, that's not your decision anymore. That's not your responsibility anymore because you have a responsibility to the business. And so you might have to make that tough decision. Or maybe a parent to a kid, or siblings, or any other situation that might come up. Neighbors. There might be a point in time when that time comes where you have to make a decision based on what's best for you, and you can't worry about what the other people think or feel.
Yeah, leaders are people who are able to make the tough decisions for the greater good. And we forget that. We forget that we ourselves can be leaders, and we can stand up for ourselves and just say, I need better, I deserve better. I mean, they could be the other way too, that we're being selfish or spoiled or arrogant. That's another situation. but there's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of people. I just talked to a lady the other day who she was having like self-worth problems, and she's a perfectionist, and she's like, I just can't, I know God's forgiven me, but I can't forgive me. And I'm like, well, why are you holding yourself to a standard that even God doesn't hold you to? And she just couldn't let it go. She just had so much, I should have done better. She was, shooting all over herself.
Should.
Yeah.
Don't should on yourself.
Should on yourself. That's going to be in our swag shop soon if the print shops, as soon as the print shops open back up again.
Another obstacle. We've got all kinds of stuff that Tara's working on as far as the merchandise and the swag that's being
and they're closed.
backlogged.
They're backlogged right now, so I'm not able to upload
Although I am excited because I had to go through alternative means, and the next time we get together,
yes,
there'll be some new stuff to unveil.
Really?
Yes. I'm not telling you.
Cool.
You have to wait and see. But yeah, we are Two Steps Ahead podcast. We highlight the stuff we've stepped in so you don't have to. Hey, you can check us out on Instagram. Go to Two Steps Ahead podcast, TWO, Two Steps Ahead podcast, and you can like our page, like our stuff. And then also if you go to the bio, it's a Linktree bio. You click the bio and some options come up. You can click those options. One of them is the swag shop where you can buy the merchandise. Another one is you can watch our videos on YouTube. You can listen to the show on Pandora, Spotify, SoundCloud. I think there's iHeartMedia, even Google Podcast. So all those options are right there with one click of a button. Or if you're just out and about and you want to Google search Two Steps Ahead Podcast, TWO, it pops up and we're right there too. So we're pretty easy to find. Mm-hmm. And then also we're on TV in the Pasadena area, in Long Beach, in Santa Clarita Valley, and some other places coming soon, hopefully, to a TV near you. My personal Instagram is at Eidem Rocks, EIDEM ROCKS. I had some people, one person in particular, reach out to me. They talked about a previous show that we did and shared some insight and some thoughts. And so we always appreciate what you have to say, even if you have something to contribute as far as an opinion or a thought about what we've been talking about. Please share it. Because
or a topic suggestion.
Yeah, a topic suggestion. But we always like input. We always like to hear from you because it's exciting to kind of get feedback. My background in radio was you take phone calls and listen to what the people have to say. And since we're not really in a position to do that right now, maybe you can send us your feedback and your comments through direct message on Instagram, either at Two Steps Ahead Podcast or at Eidem Rocks. And let us know. Let us know what you think and your thoughts on things and your opinions and maybe some of the experiences you've been going through, because we've talked about in the past where we like to draw on people's experiences as opposed to listening to news media. People tell us you tell us what's going on, you tell us what you're experiencing, and we'd definitely love to hear that from you. So Two Steps Ahead Podcast, TWO, on Instagram, or at Eidem Rocks, EIDEM ROCKS.
And I am at Tara Hoke Schiro, TARAHOKESCHIRO. And there's a link in my bio as well for my website, the swag shop, YouTube videos, all that good stuff. And
her website is www, which is I think redundant these days, but www.taraschiro.com. And you can find out blog stuff, you can find out swag stuff, you can watch the videos there too. So, one-stop shopping there as well. Hey, again, special thank you to the Doubletree, Hilton, and David and his staff for letting us come down to the Kyoto Gardens to do our show again for the second week in a row. We really appreciate it. Yes. Little Tokyo. So if you're looking for a place to get away, maybe you, when things open up, you need a convention, maybe you need a place to gather, maybe you want to use the Kyoto Gardens for a meeting, for relaxation. They're going to do yoga and stuff like that eventually at some point, a wedding. Come on down and check them out, and they will definitely help you with all you need. And it's in a pretty convenient location, too, when you consider Los Angeles. It's right off the freeway, and so it's a really cool spot. We are Two Steps Ahead Podcast, highlighting the stuff we've stepped in so you don't have to. Take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great, be kind, and don't be an a-hole.